Dykes back on the program via the Diamond Factory hotline. Good morning, Coach. How are you? Happy holidays.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
How crazy have things been? Media attention, recruiting, signing day, bowl prep. Do you have any time to do anything in your personal life these days?
You don't get to do a whole lot of that from about the middle of July until about the second week in January. If you have a good season in college football, it's just kind of the way it is. It's funny that the season is the regular season is, you get into a routine. It's really not that bad. All of a sudden you finish, we went to the Big 12 championship game. So we had an extra week of preparation and work. And then all of a sudden, as soon as that was done, it was on to recruiting. So it does get a little bit hectic. Thankfully, we signed our recruiting class on Wednesday. And now we can really spend all of our attention on getting ready to play Michigan in the college football playoff. So it's a busy time of year, lots of stuff going on, but, it's a fun time of year for sure.
Coach, when you have a year like this, is the recruiting and the attention on your program and kids wanting to come to you, does it explode like times 50, or is that a little bit too much in terms of what some of us may think with all the kids who may want to now come play at TCU as a national championship contender? Is it invaluable what this year did for immediate recruiting right now?
Yeah, it certainly helped with some guys down the stretch. I think we'll really see the needle move probably with the 24 recruiting class, next year's class, just because, a lot of these guys decide so early where they're going to go. But we had a lot of interest. There was probably 6 or 7 guys that we were able to sign down the stretch that we probably would not have had a chance to sign without the success this year. So, we feel like we signed a really good recruiting class. We feel like it's going to continue to get better. We have a lot to offer here at TCU, and we just think once we get the word out and these guys have a chance to get on campus and get around our program, that we're going to continue to be able to recruit better and better every year.
Have you found, not just this year, but even going into the 24 class, that the interest from outside the state is much different than it was previous year?
Yeah, certainly. I think that there's, we're starting to become a little bit more of a national brand, which I think in some ways is good. It's like anything else. You've got to figure out how to manage it. The good thing is we're in DFW, which I think is the best high school football area in the United States of America. And so we don't need to go too far outside of our immediate area to go find guys, and certainly not too far outside of Texas. But there's always going to be some of the best players in the country that are outside of Texas that, I think are starting to have some interest in TCU, and hopefully we'll be able to recruit them moving forward.
Coach, I always wondered this when it comes to recruiting, and now with the NIL, do you kind of I don't want to say judge a player, but when, depending on how early in the process they ask for NIL money or what your NIL situation is that a turnoff about the player, that they're just in it for some cash?
Yeah, look, I think it's very similar in a weird sort of way to hiring somebody. If you think about it, if you have an open position in your business, whatever it is, and, a candidate comes in and the first thing they ask is, okay, look, how much am I going to get paid? then I think that's cause for alarm, whether you're trying to recruit an 18-year-old football player to come to your university or whether you're trying to fill a position on your coaching staff or support staff. And so, it's like everything else. You have to evaluate people and evaluate what motivates people and evaluate whether or not you think it's a good fit for you and your program. And certainly somebody that's interested in maximizing their opportunities as far as their income goes is not a bad thing. But I think that, there needs to be a whole lot more that goes into that decision, in my opinion. And I think for guys to kind of fit into our culture, that it makes a lot of sense for them for that NIL thing to be a consideration like it always should be. But at the same time, it's not going to be the driving factor on why they choose to come to TCU.
Coach, you're prepping for this Michigan Wolverines football team next Saturday. It's something that I think largely from the outside analysts are talking about. Okay, you got TCU, this is a track team. They like to get out and go and really push the ball downfield and have an explosive offense. And then, you've got Michigan over here that's classic Big Ten football team and likes to run the ball and play hard-nosed defense. And I think there's a feeling like it's easier to try and establish your identity or establish your game plan when you're one of those physical football teams. How do you go about making sure they play the game the way you want to? Is it more of a challenge, the type of game that you guys play, to get Michigan to play that style?
Yeah, I think you have to try to match their physicality. I think that's the one thing is you just got to play tough. You got to play physical. You've got to be able to stop the run. Michigan is one of the few teams really in college football that will run the ball kind of no matter what. I mean, they're gonna continue to pound you a little bit. They've got a really good quarterback and they've got some nice receivers and some tight ends that can catch the ball. But their preference really is to line up and just try to knock you off the ball and methodically move the ball down the field. And they will continue to do that if you don't stop them. So to me, that's going to be really important. We've got to be able to stop the run. I think that's going to be critical for us. We've got to do a good job in short yardage situations, getting off the field defensively, and then keeping drives alive on offense for ourselves. And that's going to be very, very important. So, I think that one thing that we have to do is rely on our strengths, which is speed and ability to get the ball down the field, like you said earlier. And so we're going to have to take shots and we're going to have to make plays, contested plays, one-on-one type situations. And our guys have done that this year, and we're going to have to do it on Saturday.
Sonny Dykes, TCU coach, joins us here 105 through the Fan. Against Ohio State, they really went over the top nicely in the passing game. Did you notice that in the other games on tape, that they had that ability, or did that kind of stand out?
Yeah, that was a little bit out of their character. I think Ohio State really, tried to sell out, stop the run, and Michigan did a nice job of hitting them on some big plays. Hit a couple of big post routes, made some contested catches, and created a ton of big plays against those guys. And I think that they caught them probably a little off guard. I mean, Michigan has done that at times this year, but they did a lot of it in the Ohio State game, and you can tell that Ohio State was a little caught off guard by that.
Is that one of those things where if you only see it maybe like once or twice, that it's you got to prove it to me that you can do it again, or does that really kind of sit in the back of your mind that they can actually do it?
Yeah. I think it's like the game of football is really kind of about give and take, and it's like goes back to what I said earlier about we really have to stop the run. Well, how do you stop the run? You commit more people to the run, and when you do that, obviously you leave yourself open to giving up some long passes, and so. Our guys are going to have to really compete on the outside. There's going to be times where, our corners are going to be covering receivers and without any kind of help. And, our guys are going to have to, make those plays and be in good position to be able to make them and compete hard for the ball when it's in the air. And so, I think Michigan probably has a pretty good idea of what we're going to do. I think they have a pretty good idea of what most people are going to do. And I think that's why it's so important to be able to establish a run game. And they've been able to do that throughout the course of the year, and that enables them to be able to take some big shots down the field and create some explosive plays.
Coach, Max Duggan's obviously had a tremendous season. He's been huge for you guys. Announced recently that he will be heading to the NFL after this season, but that he was committed to staying here and playing this game and playing with his teammates. Just I guess talk about that decision from Max and the type of leadership that he's provided for you guys and how much the offense in general follows him.
Yeah, Max had a great year. I mean, he really has. He's gotten so much better through the course of the season. I think he gets better every single week. He's certainly a different player this year than he was a year ago. Much more comfortable in what we're doing offensively. I think he really has a lot of trust and faith in his supporting cast. He knows he doesn't have to do it himself. He can spread the ball around, whether it's handing it to Kendre Miller or whether it's throwing it to Quentin Johnson or a bunch of these other guys that can make plays for us. And so it's, I think he's done a really, really good job of getting settled in and going out and operating our offense. The thing that Max does well, too, he's got an element where he can run the football. Mm-hmm. He's a physical runner. He's faster than people think he is. He's pretty elusive. And so when your quarterback can run as well, then that gives a defense a whole different set of problems. And so I think that's been a big part of our success this year has been his play. He's done a great job taking care of the ball. He hadn't turned it over much. And he's given us a chance to win every Saturday. And I think that's what your quarterback is supposed to do. He's supposed to trust the scheme, trust the players, limit the number of mistakes and turnovers that he makes. And if he does that, then typically you're going to have a chance. And he's played really, really good, smart football for us this year. He's going to have to do the same thing against Michigan. Look, they're a team that's really physical up front. Their D tackles are really good players. They're both powerful guys, and they got long guys on the back end. And it's a challenging defense, and they do a good job of not giving up big plays. And so Max is going to have to do what he's done all year. He's going to have to stay within himself, spread the ball around to a bunch of different guys that can make plays. And I think we all have a lot of confidence that he'll be able to do that.
And you talk about, stopping Michigan's running game and how important that's going to be for you guys. Is it any different preparing specifically for Donovan Edwards with Blake Corum out, or is it one of those things where it's like Michigan's going to play their run style the way that they play it, and the guy that's back there specifically isn't going to be that much of a game plan difference?
Yeah, both backs are really good players, and so they didn't change much with those guys. I mean, they're both powerful guys that can make you miss and finish runs well, and they can grind the ball down the field, and so their style didn't really change much when one of them got injured, and so they just kind of keep doing what Michigan does. The one thing that's different about these guys is they'll throw a lot of different personnel groups at you. They'll play with 3 tight ends, some play with 6 or 7 offensive linemen at times. So they do some pretty unique things that a lot of other people in college football don't do. And so as a result of that, they're pretty difficult to prepare for. And they do a nice job of creating extra gaps that you have to defend from a run perspective. And so, defensively, you got to be able to do a lot of different things. And I'm sure with the amount of time that they've had to prepare for us, they'll have a couple of new wrinkles as well. And so we're going to have to be able to adjust and adapt and do a good job of figuring out how they're trying to attack us.
Coach, many people brought up your name and thought of you after the Mike Leach news. I think you tweeted, besides your father, he had the biggest football influence on you. What can you say about your time and memories when it comes to Coach Leach?
Yeah, Mike, I think everybody knows this, but he was really a kind of a one-of-a-kind personality, very unique, just a different person. I think Mike was, he was great to work for. I mean, he empowered people. He gave you a ton of responsibility. Didn't matter how young you were. I think that's a big part of the reason why so many coaches that were on his staff, particularly that Texas Tech staff, have gone on and become successful coaches, is because Mike did a great job of mentoring us and like I said, giving us responsibility and listening, and really taught us to think differently maybe than the other people in college football did. Very unique personality, really fun guy to be around. Could be maddening at times, just because Mike was going to do it his way, and sometimes it drove you crazy. But it's part of what made him so awesome to work for. I mean, it's funny when we got together at his service this week. We were all telling Mike Leach stories, and every single person there had one and had several. And guys like me that were with him, I was with him, I think 8 or 9 years. I mean, there's hundreds of stories that you could tell, and sometimes you tell the stories and people are like, there's no way that happened. It actually did. And so, there was never a boring day when you worked for Mike Leach, and it's hard to really it's hard to measure really what he meant to college football and really football in general. His philosophy and Hal Mummy's philosophy, I think, changed the game. I mean, I really do. And I think a lot of what we're seeing now on Sunday in the NFL has trickled up to the NFL, and certainly, it had a huge impact on college football and high school football and just football in general.